If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe and become part of this community. Oh, and also, go cop that fresh merch and listen to my new album in the description. Alright, let's talk about Drake's new album, Certified Lover Boy, because obviously that is one of the most anticipated albums of this year, and this is also one of the albums that y'all have been craving for the review for the most out of any project that has probably ever dropped. So here's my thoughts on Drake's Certified Lover Boy. That dropped last Friday, September 3rd, after over a year of being delayed and us going through so many phases of this thing being announced, not dropping, then Drake saying it's gonna drop in the summer, then not dropping, and now we finally got it after a long period of waiting, which y'all probably know about if you've been following the channel. So let's talk about my thoughts on this right now. So Certified Lover Boy had somewhat of a weird rollout, as I just explained, a lot of announcing then not dropping, then him dropping this really weird cover art with the 12 pregnant women emojis, and everybody thought it was a joke, but then it wasn't. So that's one of the first things that I gotta say about this, because I still think it's pretty silly that he used this picture as the cover art for it, even though, you know, y'all been saying like, oh, he just doesn't care anymore. Also on some of the songs you can hear that, but still, I think for a project that is so special to him and his fans, I mean, he announced this with the trailer that had a throwback to all of his old album styles and covers. For him to just do it like this is kind of weird. But let's actually talk about the music that is on here, because that is obviously what is interesting. First off, I gotta say, this broke the record for most streamed album ever on Spotify and on other streaming platforms. Also, the third song, Girls Want Girls with Lil Baby, which I just don't really like. I mean, it has that horrible line of like, she say I'm a lesbian and me too, stuff like that. You'll probably seen all the reactions of it, which I know y'all said that Drake doesn't care about anything anymore about that. Still don't like the track. I thought Lil Baby's verse was pretty good, stuck to the subject matter really well on this track, but just overall, I didn't like this. But this song had the biggest opening day of any song in Spotify's history, so Drake is making history again. Anyway, let's actually go through this from the top, because Champagne Poetry, the first thing on here, is low-key one of my favorite songs, because it has this incredible sample with it, and then Drake just spitting bars over it for almost 6 minutes. I like the way Drake usually does his intros. We've seen him do this on Nothing Was the Same with Tuscan Leather, for example, and I like that he went back to this style. Now, and then from there, you know, it starts kind of falling off, and I start to see some of the problems that I have with this thing. Mainly, it is just that the tracks are they don't have an individual character, everyone themselves. They are too homogenous. For example, Poppy's Home is just a track that I never really went back to. I know as a standalone track, it is probably good, and that's what a lot of y'all been telling me, like, yo, give this thing some time to breathe. The individual tracks will stand out if you come back in like half a year or something. But when you listen to this thing from top to bottom, a lot of this just sounds the same. I know I like that style about Drake, that very eerie 40 type of beats, but I don't know, he somehow just made him too similar on this thing. So Poppy's Home wasn't, you know, my cup of tea. Anyway, In the Bible I thought was pretty good. Lil Durk had an amazing verse on here. He used it to promote India Royale Cosmetics, his girl's brand and company, so shout out to Durkio. I thought that Jay-Z feature on Love All was really good, and it really made that song more attractive to go back to. I find myself going back to this, I mean, for the Jay-Z feature, but then I also fell in love with the song itself, so not too, you know, not too bad on this one. Fair Trade with Travis Scott was the one we got the, you know, the whole snippet for with Drake in the studio, so obviously a lot of people are gravitating towards that. I thought Travis laid down an incredible second verse on there, and it's just a vibe in itself. Now, another track that I know a lot of you like and that is also doing pretty well commercially is Way Too Sexy with Future and Young Thug, which was supposed to drop as a single but then didn't. I just don't like that song. It's so basic, it's so just naive and dumbed down that I just don't find myself really listening to this, and I don't see it as like a hype song. It's just, yeah, I don't really go back to this. Moving on from there, we have some of these tracks like TSU or Pipe Down, or later on, you know, Race My Mind, Get Along Better, that are just like, they don't really have that individuality to me. They're not unique, no character so far. Maybe I do need to give give this a little bit more time to breathe and for me to appreciate the individual songs more. I get that, but just so far it's not been doing it for me. Some highlights on there though for sure are No Friends in the Industry, which does go pretty hard, but I've already seen a lot of people quote this like, oh, I have no friends in the industry, just me. So that's gonna be like an Instagram caption. I already see that. I thought that Knife Talk with 21 Savage was pretty good, but it really was a 21 Savage song that Drake was featured on, which was kind of too bad, but I guess I can still appreciate it as a 21 Savage song. 7 a.m. on Brittle Path, my favorite track off of here. You probably know that, judging from, you know, my posts on YouTube and Twitter, that Drake really went hard on this. I loved those little, you know, shots at Kanye. It made the whole beef a little more interesting, even though I made a whole nother video on that the other day talking about if this beef is actually necessary and what the whole point of it is. But still, that was a really good track. That's my favorite track on here. Some other stuff like Fountains with Thames is just, it feels kind of forced, and I don't know how I can get more into that. I like force myself to like it, but I just really don't. That You Only Live Twice joined with Lil Wayne and Rick Ross was pretty good, even though I enjoyed Ross's and Wayne's part more than Drake's. But this did kind of give a throwback to some of those, you know, Seeing Green type of vibes you get from Drake, and I love that. That's maybe some of the stuff that I would have loved to see more of on this thing. Kid Cudi and Drake had some really good chemistry on I Am White 2. You know, Drake kind of following Cudi's footsteps with like the style of it, which I really loved. And then Drake closes the whole thing out with Effing Fans, which I didn't really like either. It's just a forgettable song to me. But then the Remorse at the end, another 6-minute track, is really one of those Drake tracks that is just a grand, just him spitting, him getting more introspective and talking about his own life, which I usually really like about him, and I did like this track as well. I do need to, you know, have it on repeat though a little bit more often as I go back to this. So all in all, Certified Lover Boy to me was an okay project. It was not a full disappointment, but it was definitely less than what I had expected. I thought it was going to be bigger. I thought he would take it more seriously with the album cover, with switching it up a little bit more on this record other than just that style that he knows sells well, and I would have loved to see that. Nonetheless, I do see what y'all mean. I get y'all point that the individual tracks themselves are really good, each one of them, but just listening to it, it gets kind of tedious the whole thing through. I mean, it's 1.5 hours. That's kind of the problem I had with it, but it's not a bad project. It is okay. I can accept it, and I do look forward to what Drake is coming up in the future. This is all just my opinion, of course. Now I want to know what you think about this. Were you excited about this? What'd you think of what we got so far? Did you like the tracks? What's your favorite track? What's your least favorite track? And what tracks would you have loved to see on here? Let me know in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media and blog down in the description. It really helps me out. Until the next one, y'all have an incredible day, and y'all take care.